Next question, and we'll start with Mike Curtin on this one. We've got a couple of variations of this, so I'll try to merge them together. Especially with the new census numbers coming out, we'll be getting a couple of new city council seats. How do you feel about the talk or the option to switch the city council representation to a district or ward system or a hybrid system? What would you support and why? Mike?
Sorry. You went 5 seconds.
I would support a ward system or a hybrid ward system. I think it'll help engage more residents, particularly in some of the lower income areas. In addition, it'll provide more oversight. I think there's a number of times where city services are not necessarily allocated and performed properly and equally across all geographic areas. The NSP funds is a prime example. Those of us in Swan know we had to fight in order to get equal status with some of the neighborhoods on the east side. And once we got equal status, the city's still going to spend a lot less money in our neighborhood than in other areas. And the city said they were going to put one Habitat home in every neighborhood. We ended up with 2, which means one neighborhood is going to end up with 0. And these things have to end, and I think a ward system might be a step in the right direction.
As I mentioned before, I'm originally from the south side of Chicago, and we all know that Chicago is ward central, wards everywhere. It looks good on paper, and its allure is equal representation. If not used properly, and it very seldom is, it is a violent, corrupt system. Patronage jobs, corruption election, it is you get a coalition of wards that gang up on other wards. It is a bad system. Here in Elgin, whether you know it or not, you have a shadow ward system, but it's not being utilized. That's the problem. You can get all these neighborhood associations on a round table once a month to discuss the problems that you need like a ward system would, but you don't use it. I'm telling you, a ward system sounds good on paper, but it's not. I've seen it not work.
Can I get 5 more seconds? I haven't started yet.
You're good.
Okay? Go. Okay. First of all, the ward system is not going to work right now because the city is still expanding to the west, the Highway 47. And there's some people that want the ward system to live out west, and there's only like 2 people in their block. So they figure, well, we don't have to earn it. We just get a ward system, and I'm automatically on the city council. Everybody on this council, on this table here, is going to earn the spot on the city council. Okay? And some people say, well, I represent this neighborhood or I represent that neighborhood. If you elect me, I represent you. The whole city, all 110% of the city, I represent. Okay? I work for you. You're going to send me to the city council and you have a problem, you can contact me and say, come on out, look at this. But I will be out there because I want to earn my paycheck because I work for you people. Okay? And I just think everybody here is earning a spot in the city council. We just don't want to be given it. And the ward systems right now can't work because we have too much growth to the west and it's not proper, and it's your turn.
I'd like to echo some of the things that Manfred said as far as the ward system. I do continue to support the at-large system. I think we do need to address why residents are wanting to go to a ward system, and that is because some residents do feel misrepresentation. That's why we have an election this year. You get to choose. If you think that council members are not addressing the issues in your area, it's maybe time for change. I would like to have your support. I think that having a large system allows teamwork to be done across the city. Larger projects can be taken on rather than focusing on individual smaller projects always at the ward level. I think it does allow for a little bit more seamlessness and a little bit less of the infighting that you may experience with a ward system.
I agree with the comments of the past 3 council candidates. I think that Elgin benefits from our at-large system right now. Currently, every resident has 6 representatives on the council. and each 6 is accountable to each resident, and it's up to the council members to ensure that they are accountable and responsive to the needs of the entire community, not just one neighborhood or one district or one ward. And if you do introduce wards or districts, you create a situation where the primary focus becomes on serving your one area, because that, frankly, is what would get you elected and reelected over time. So I think we do benefit from the fact that the City Council has to make decisions based on the greater good for the entire community and not just for one small geographic area.
I was for the referendum that was going to ask you what you wanted to do as far as wards or at-large system, but I'm not for the ward system. I think it's come up twice before in city's history and been voted down resoundingly. Try to answer it in a minute. The 3 big issues I hear people bring forth as to why they think they need a ward system is geographic diversity, ethnic or gender or race diversity on the council, or a lack of responsiveness from the council. I don't think, if you think through those 3 issues, the type of ward system we would have, which would have either 4, 5, or I've even seen an option with 6 wards, the wards are going to be so large that none of those issues are really going to be addressed effectively within each one of those wards. In other words, those wards would be as geographically and racially and area diverse as we have currently. So I don't think you're going to solve the problems that I'm hearing people raise with a ward system. And combined with that, all the negative things that you've already heard prior answers talk about fiefdoms and the geographic areas limiting representation.
I don't think you're going to hear much new from me on this issue than what's already been said. Just a couple of points. The only organization that can change our form of government is everybody that sits in this room. The City Council doesn't change the form of government. It would be by the people that vote in Elgin if we want to change to a ward system. But I do think I'm not in favor of it for all the different reasons. In my 2 years on the City Council, I've never checked an email to find out what part of town they worked in or lived in to determine if I'm going to serve their need or answer their question. And I think I like the idea of having the conversations of what's the problem we're trying to solve. Let's identify the problem of why we think wards might be an answer, because there's probably there might be other answers to solve the problem. But I think first we have to articulate what the issues are, what the problems are, and then find a solution. And maybe it is a ward system, or maybe it's something else. But the decision lies in your hands, not the City Council's.
I've been a results-orientated person through my career. I've made a lot of changes that were wanted and not wanted with administrators. The whole thing here, being a results-orientated type person, is I don't care where you live in the city. I'll be out there at 10 o'clock at night with your neighborhood group if we need to address an issue. But this is all about representation, and it's all about you. I was for the referendum. I can work with any system. If you want a ward system, I can work with that. If you want it at a large system, I can work with that. I think basically it's up to you. It's not up to us. The only question that I've had through this process is if we're going to do it, let's either keep it a large system or let's completely go to a full ward system. I'm not really looking to have a mixed ward system. Thank you.
I'm against a ward system. I think you should be for every resident of Elgin. So if you sit in the council and you belong to Ward A, why do you really care about Ward B? You know, those people didn't elect you. You don't actually care, really, truthfully. Well, it doesn't matter. They're not your citizens. They're not giving you votes. So why do you actually care about Ward B if you're Ward A? And something else too. If the issue does come up and a ballot and we do elect a ward system, I don't know the legal things. Can we, if it doesn't work after like 4 years or something, can we get rid of it? Can we legally get rid of a ward system if we elect it? I think that's something that, I don't know. That's something that we should probably check into before we put it on a ballot. Because, you know, if it turns out to be worse than at large now and we can't legally get rid of it, is that really smart?
There isn't a whole lot I could probably say new that which you haven't already heard, but again, the big issue is that this is up to the voters. The City Council does not determine whether or not we go to a ward system. I personally favor the at-large system that we currently have for a number of reasons. Right now, everyone on the council is accountable to the entire community, and we all vote for each one of those people. If for some reason you don't feel a particular council member or any of the council members are being responsive to your needs, you have the ability to vote for or against them. In a ward system, you don't have the ability to do that if there's a council person that is not in your district. And I think that is what I'm hearing from residents as I talk to them in terms of why they are not supportive of going to a full ward or a mixed ward system. In terms of why people are talking about going to a ward system, the underrepresentation of certain ethnic groups or gender groups or neighborhoods, the biggest way to solve that problem is to find people that live in these underrepresented areas or in these underrepresented groups and encourage them to run for office and support them. That's what I would recommend. Thank you.
Okay, now Mayor Schock.
Okay. I'm opposed to the ward system. And I cut on an article that appeared in the Daily Herald just a few days ago where they covered a discussion in St. Charles where they have the ward system about the Red Gate Bridge. The candidates were debating the issue of another bridge across the Fox River. And here's what the alderman said. While he personally supports the bridge, he'd vote the way his constituents want it. If the majority of the people in his ward said they didn't want the bridge, he'd vote against its construction. My first obligation, he said, is with my ward. My second obligation is to the city. Well, I think everyone running for the city council's first obligation is to the city as a whole. We are entrusted with making decisions that advance the best interests of the city of a whole. Not a neighborhood, not a section of the city, not an interest group, but what's best for the city. And I don't think that's the kind of government you get when you have wards. I think we do much better and have been much better served by the at-large system.
I was the person that raised the issue to the council back last fall, and I heard enough comments from citizens to realize there was an issue out in the community. Personally, I can live with an either system. I've done very well within an at-large system, but the conversation needed to take place. The community needed to talk about it. We're going to add 2 new council members. The time to do it was before we add those council members and make the discussion. On our way through the discussion, we found out something I think is even a bigger problem. The majority of people in this town don't even know what our government is like. They don't know how many council members we have. They don't know what our mayor does. They don't know what our city manager does. And the League of Women Voters has picked up on this issue and is going to start educating the citizens of Elgin on what their government is. And to me, that is that's the worst news I've probably had in the decade, that we have a town of 100,000 people and we have probably a majority of them don't even know what the government is like.
Thank you, everybody, for answering that.